Mayor Pete's team, and really excited to be a part of a pretty momentous day in North Carolina as we start getting to the polls, and to support all of these amazing candidates that are here today. I'm going to turn it over shortly to Mayor Pete to kick us off. But if anybody has questions, we'll have some time at the end to ask all of our amazing candidates and Mayor Pete questions. Just type them in the chat function there at the bottom of your screen. And any issues, feel free to chat me during the event. But let's just jump right in because we're excited and we got to hear from everybody today. We'll start. I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Great, and I'll be brief by way of opening because I want you to hear from the fantastic candidates we're supporting. But first, I want to thank everybody who's on this call. I know that you're getting all kinds of invitations and requests. We're all discovering just how busy this stage of voting season can be. And so it means a lot that you've taken the time to be part of this. And this is the place to be. It's no longer, here comes election day. Voting season is underway in North Carolina, people casting their votes right now. And it's a big day for a big state. Around the country, people are going to be looking very closely at North Carolina, and we sure are. Win the Era has been proud to get deeply involved in North Carolina. If there were more campaign travel going on this year, I would be an expert on barbecue in North Carolina by now because we would have been on the ground a lot. We're doing the next best thing, which is being as present as we can at the side of candidates I really believe in, who I think are making a difference today and are going to be making a difference tomorrow. And I got to tell you, the success that we have a chance to seize in North Carolina really has implications for the entire national map and the whole trajectory of the country. We know what we're up against. We're seeing a lot of bad faith and attacks and arguments out there. We're seeing a president who just a couple hours ago went on television to say everything's going along just fine when it comes to the pandemic. And we've got local issues right and left that are being made worse by politicians who are putting their allegiance to party over what needs to happen for those they serve. But this isn't, for me, just about what we're against. It's about who we're for, because we have fantastic candidates to back, and three of them are here right now. In Josh Stein, we have an attorney general who understands what the office is about. And, these statewide constitutional offices often don't get the attention that they deserve. But in his hands, this has been an office that is consistently there to support North Carolinians with the right kind of priorities, recognizing that so much depends on who is speaking out and acting legally on behalf of the people. He's built in a short amount of time, an amazing reputation in public service, and I'm really proud to support him. In Pat Timmons-Goodson, we have somebody who will make a fantastic U.S. member of Congress. And in addition to her distinguished career as a judge and everything that she's done in jurisprudence, I also think it's not a small thing that she is from a military family and understands what veterans and military members and their families are going through. We have, frankly, a lot of work to do as a country in doing right by those who've served. And she's somebody who understands that instinctively, just as she understands the needs of the communities that she has served, both in her time as a district attorney and in her time on the bench. And of course, had an opportunity to serve nationally, but hit that wall of bad faith that again, the Senate GOP has put up. But I am very excited about what will happen when she gets to Washington and restores just common sense and the right attitudes and the right priorities to the U.S. Congress and helps us expand our critically important majority there. And then in Yvonne Lewis-Holley, one of the most remarkable people I've had the pleasure of getting to know in this campaign cycle, somebody who has been in that, again, unsung, vitally important role in the state legislature, where she has been looking after the interests of those whose voices aren't always heard, and is now stepping up to run statewide as lieutenant governor. And I'm so thrilled that she's got the nomination, because she brings an energy and a spirit, as well as her understanding of policy to that office that I think will really help set the right tone for the years ahead. So I couldn't be more excited about the candidates we're supporting, about the state of North Carolina, and about the message that could be sent that the whole nation would have to pay attention to as voters choose a better path than what the other side is offering in returning Josh Stein to office, in promoting Yvonne Lewis-Holley to lieutenant governor, and in sending Pat Timmons-Goodson to Washington. So I know Anthony's going to MC us as we hear from each of these fantastic candidates. Thanks again for joining us. And if you aren't already, by the end of our time together, you're going to see why I'm so excited about them each.
Fantastic. What a way to kick it off. Amazing. I'm going to keep it short and just turn it right over to Attorney General Stein. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome.
Thank you, Anthony. Pete, thank you for convening us. Thank you for those very generous words. Always a pleasure to be with my friends Yvonne and Pat. We're all busting our tails on the election trail, and today is just a fantastic day. I had the opportunity to go to the early voting site in East Raleigh, Roberts Community Center, and there was so much positive energy. It was, I was talking to Yvonne earlier, it kind of felt almost Obama-esque from 2008, just in terms of the celebratory mood. We are in a dark time. There are terrible things going on in our country. We're dealing with the deadliest public health pandemic in 100 years, the worst unemployment in 85 years, a long overdue reckoning on racism, a climate crisis that is real as it storms pound the Gulf and fire burns California. These terrible things are going on, but we're at a moment where we have the power to change this. And this is our opportunity. You know, already 530,000 North Carolinians have voted by mail. I see my parents are on the Zoom. They and I have already put our ballots in, and there will be thousands more who have voted as of today, based on what we're seeing all across North Carolina. And it's because they are hungry for something better. They're hungry for change here in North Carolina, change in this country, and frankly, change across the globe. And we in North Carolina, I think, are incredibly blessed, because I think we have more power to shape the future of not only our state, but this country and the world, I think, than any other voters in the country. Because when we win, we will win the state house and the state senate. We're running under fair maps for the first time this decade. We will win congressional seats. We're going to win Pat. We're going to win 3 or 4 other congressional seats, adding to Nancy Pelosi's majority. The Council of State, reelecting me, Elaine Marshall, Beth Wood, and a slate of very talented people led by Yvonne Holley. We've got 3 Supreme Court justice seats, including our Chief Justice, Sherry Beasley, the first African-American female Chief Justice in North Carolina history. We must reelect Roy Cooper, who has done a tremendous job staunching the backward move of this Republican legislature, but we need to move forward, and he's ready to lead us with a Democratic legislature. We can, by electing Cal Cunningham, not only retire Tom Tillis, we are the tipping point state. Mitch McConnell will go to the back bench. And of course, when we elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in North Carolina, the race is over. No Republican has won the presidency without winning North Carolina since Dwight D. Eisenhower. We have that power. We have 19 days. It is up to us to exercise that power. And I am excited to work with each of you over these coming 2.5 weeks to get all of these things done. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Attorney General. Today is a huge day. With that, I will turn it over to Judge Timmons-Goodson to jump in and share a few words and give an update on today's exciting developments.
Absolutely. It is so good to be with all of you. Mayor Pete, you are awesome. I like the things that you're saying about where we are as a nation. I like the way that you have stepped in to talk up for other candidates. I just thank you for all of the work that you're doing. Many of us understand what a treasure you are. It won't be long before there are a whole lot of folks around this nation that are going to come to appreciate and understand that. And it's always good to be with our attorney, Josh Stein. I was with the Attorney General for Massachusetts the other evening, and Josh, she was singing your praises. You're known all over the United States, and North Carolina is just so fortunate to have you. Representative Holley, you've been fighting the good fight for a long time. We understand that, and we're looking forward to you elevating your voice as you serve as our Attorney General. Thank all of you for coming together as Zooming with us once more. I cannot help but to think about the late Aretha Franklin and her song, Who's Zooming Who? So I don't know who's Zooming who today, whether I'm Zooming you or you're Zooming me or what, but I'm glad we're Zooming together. Just quickly, this afternoon, I have returned to my office, but earlier this morning, I found myself out at one of our early voting sites out at Smith Recreation. And I'm seeing the same numbers that Josh shared with us. I'm feeling the same energy, the palpable emotion and desire to do something and to make a difference. And so I'm predicting large numbers of voters as folks step up and let us know what it is that they think we ought to be doing as a nation. And I think they're going to be telling us that we need new leadership. But North Carolina, let me very quickly say, this state has over 80,000 miles of roadway, 19 interstate highways, and that's because North Carolinians like the freedom of being able to go anywhere. But today, even the shortest trips, as we all understand, feel dangerous, whether we're talking about going to the grocery store or whether we're talking about going to church or to visit our loved ones. It feels like there's danger out there. And to add to all of that, folks understand that our government in DC too often is not telling us the truth, whether we're discussing the issue of the number of souls lost as a result of the pandemic, or whether we're talking about the real state of our economy or racial injustice. Too many of us understand that we're not getting the kind of leadership that we need in Washington. And so often hope seems lost. But I know a little bit about hope. And I understand that journeys can be long and difficult, but they can end well, and they will end well. Very quickly, let me tell you that the 8th Congressional District is one that, for the most part, is a microcosm of North Carolina, and I think a microcosm of our nation. What I mean by that is some parts of the 8th Congressional District are doing reasonably well. Cabarrus County, for example, has one of the highest average annual incomes in North Carolina. But you go to other parts of the district and you will see they're doing okay. And then still others where our small towns are about to dry up. That's because they lack economic opportunity. That's because generations of citizens are leaving. The children are educated, they don't come back, and then it's not long before their parents leave to be close to the grandchildren or to be close with others. What I'm saying is that in the words of many of the old people that I grew up with, it's a time in the land. And our citizens understand that in order to make the changes that we need to make, to get this country back on track, we're going to have to elect new leadership. And I believe that's why we're seeing in the polls the numbers that we're seeing in North Carolina. That's why we're seeing our governor, who has provided such strong leadership during this pandemic, that we see his numbers so high. I believe that that's why we're seeing continued support for Cal Cunningham. I think that's why you see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris with the numbers leading in the polls. There is change in the air, and I believe that North Carolina is going to provide the votes that will change the national leadership. And so I thank each and every one of you for being with us today, and for the role that you're playing in helping us get to that new leadership. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Judge Timmons-Goodson. It's an incredible reminder of the hope that we have and the hope that we're going to have on November 4th when we celebrate. To close us out for the kind of initial stuff before we get to Q&A, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Lewis-Holley, who was one of our earliest endorsements at Win the Era, and we're so excited to be back on another call with you. Turn it over to you.
Well, it is my pleasure. It is my pleasure to be with Attorney General Stein, Judge Timmons-Goodson, because she's still a judge to me, and she's going to be a congresswoman. You're hearing my dog a little bit in the back, so please forgive me. But of course, my favorite cutie patootie, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and I have gray hair, so I could be highly inappropriate and say that, and call a spade a spade. So it's so good to see you, Mayor Pete, and thank you for what you're doing for our country, for all of the candidates across every state, that you are working very hard to help us elect good Democrats and good people to make these changes. I too have been out this morning, going to a couple of the polls and seeing hours where the wait is 2.5 hours. This morning, I got a call at 5:30 from a friend who said that they were just going to go drop something off at the box, and the line had already started at 5:30 this morning for a poll that wasn't opening until 8. And that the energy of the people that we saw is there. North Carolina is a purple state. Okay, we have two entities. We always vote our hope and our fear. We are one of the few states that have where the lieutenant governor and the governor do not run together as a pair. When we had Senator Jesse Helms, we also had Senator Terry Sanford, hope and fear at the same time. It's been where we've had Republican governors and Democratic lieutenant governors. Democratic governors like we do now under the awesome leadership of Roy Cooper, and Republican lieutenant governors. And they are tired, because what has happened with this president, he has taken that fear and taken it to a new level with chaos and used it to marginalize people and to not be helpful, but to be harmful in many communities. So now let's talk about the hope side. I'm from a race of people that have been hoping for a very long time, and I'm a little tired of hope. I want progress and I want action. And that's what I'm feeling now. I'm feeling that energy that those people in line are more than hopeful. They really understand how much now their vote actually counts, and they want progress and they want action. And I believe that this group of wonderful candidates in North Carolina can deliver it to them. Last night, we had a debate, a gubernatorial debate, where I will tell you, Governor Roy Cooper, in the words, mopped the floor with his opponent. His eloquence, his energy, his vision and work that he's done for North Carolina stands on its own. And that's one of the reasons why I want to go and back him up. He's been busy. We're in 3 pandemics now. We're in the pandemic of the health pandemic of the COVID-19. We're in the pandemic of racial unrest. And we're in a pandemic of poverty and people falling through the cracks. And we need to take this opportunity to use things like fixing our climate change and helping people to bring new jobs to North Carolina and to help people get back on their feet. So I'm just so excited about everybody here today. I'm excited. I'm kind of a little upset. I got about 3 or 4 Zoom calls this afternoon. I really want to go back out to the polls because you need to feel that energy, and that excitement. But seeing Mayor Cutie Patootie today just puts that smile on my face, and I'm good for the rest of the day. So thank you so much for letting me be here. And I know I'm highly inappropriate, but like I said, the gray hair gives me some leeway that I can't do it. And Pat Timmons-Goodson, I talk about who's zooming who all the time, and my young staff looks at me like they don't know what I'm talking about, because that was one of Aretha Franklin's very early songs. So you're dating yourself with me, girl. So we got it. Talk to you later.
Thank you so much, Representative. We got to get that. Maybe we can get the music queued up for the end of the event. We can play out with the song. We got to try to make that happen. I want, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. We're going to take a few questions that people have submitted and jump in because we have a few more minutes to talk, which is great. Mayor, I'm going to turn the first question to you. And, please, other candidates jump in. From Michael Fath, who asked about any advice you have for waiting patiently for election results. Speak to, the broad issue of finding out when we know it's over.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Yvonne, you get to call me whatever you like, as long as I get to call you Lieutenant Governor very soon. I'm looking forward to it. The question is a good one, and obviously something I know a little bit about after our experience in Iowa. I know how it feels to want and need results quickly and to have to wait. But let me say this. What's different going into this fall is that there are going to be situations where we've got to wait a little bit. And that's not a sign of anything going wrong. That's a sign of people doing their job. Remember, the volume of early votes and of mail-in votes that are coming in is in some states like nothing we've ever seen. And it's happening at a time when some areas are struggling to recruit volunteers, poll workers, and people to count the votes too. And there's been some remarkable work to get ahead of that to make sure that the elections are sound, to shorten the lines. But we know that especially in those states that aren't even allowed to start counting until election day, even the votes that came in days or weeks earlier, it's going to take a minute. And what we've got to do is resist any effort by, especially this president, if he sees he's losing, as I think he will, or anybody else. Anytime they make an attempt to undercut the legitimacy of the election itself, to try to claim that there's something wrong with it because it's taking a while, to remember that it taking a while is probably just a sign of people doing their job and doing it diligently and with integrity. Now, on the front end, there are concerns around things like voter suppression, efforts to discourage voters, and we've got to be very vigilant about pushing back on those everywhere from the courtroom to our organizing efforts. But when the voting is complete, then our focus has to shift to making sure that every vote is counted and that legitimate results are not questioned based on efforts by people who know they're losing to try to undercut processes that took a little bit longer than usual.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Attorney General, you might want to, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I would, and I appreciate and agree with the sentiment Pete said wholeheartedly. Here's my vision for election night, which is in North Carolina, we're going to have a very strong sense of the outcome on election night, because I mentioned this 530,000 votes that have already been cast by mail. Those have already been scanned through the scanners, and all the votes that are going to occur during the 17 days of early vote, those get scanned through the scanner. They are not tallied up until election day. At 2 p.m., the county boards of election hit a button and sum up all of those votes that have come in before election day. And then, of course, on election day in North Carolina, all those votes are counted. The only votes that we will not have in our overall tally on the night of the election are going to be those that were postmarked before election day and arrive on election day or after, anywhere up to 9 days after the election, and the provisional ballots that get voted on election day, where there's some question and it's an open matter of whether it's a valid vote or not. So those in aggregate, I expect to be a small number of votes relative to the overall 5 million people who will be casting ballots in November. And so if we can deliver a strong enough victory for Biden on election night, where he's up 2 or 3 points, then the election's over, and it doesn't matter what noise the president makes. And so when I said that we have the power to really change not only North Carolina, but the country and the world, we really do. If we can deliver the victory we know that we have the potential to achieve, we can end it on election night. If that doesn't happen, if the race is close, I am fully on board with what Pete said. Every vote has to be counted. And if it takes days to do it, we will take days. It has to be done properly.
I think also folks ought to take some comfort. I agree certainly with all of the statements that have been made by Mayor Pete and by Josh, but I also think that our citizens ought to take some comfort in knowing that we have already assembled teams of lawyers and other experts to be in place in the event that we need them. And so we'll not simply be reacting to a situation. We'll be prepared.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yes, the enthusiasm and everything that we feel, I want it to be such a big margin that even if we didn't count the absentee ballots, that we know that we all have it, even with the margins that are there. So I just wanted, I'm optimistic, and I think that the people of North Carolina, the way the lines are going now, if they keep this up, it won't be any question. And they don't mind waiting a day or two for the final verdict, but I think we might know on election night.
I love it. From your mouth to God's ears, let's make it happen. We have another question that came in from actually a few different folks. And Representative Holley, I'll kick it off with you and you can share, but people are interested in kind of since this has been such an interesting campaign season, the era of Zoom, continuing on that theme, what are some interesting ways your campaign has gotten out the vote, gotten out your message, and ways that people can plug in the final 19 days?
Well, I have this wonderful Talk About Me campaign. I'm old school, Now, one of the things about Zoom is I can be on right now. In fact, in the next 2 minutes, I'm going to have to get off to get on another Zoom call that they're waiting on me for. But, I could be here with you, and then 5 minutes later, I could be in another place, which is an advantage that we have. It's not the same as being there in a part of the state in person, but it does allow me to reach a different group of people in the same day, where half the time we would have been on the road in a car somewhere going from one place to the other. So that's one difference. But I have what I call an old-fashioned Talk About Me campaign, and I will tell you, everybody here will want to do the same thing. I just was told I need to get off so I can get on this other call. But talk about me and tell everybody you know about me. Take and repost on my social media. Send a donation to my campaign. Talk about me to my face. Talk about me behind my back. But you let everybody know that you are on this call with this awesome lady or these awesome people from North Carolina, and they need to do that. Now, I really do need to get off, and I apologize humbly for it. But thank you so much. And Mayor Pete, I'll see you on the other side of victory.
Sounds good. I'll see you when you're celebrating. Go get them. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Representative Holley. We have our marching orders now. Judge Timmons-Goodson, do you want to add anything about campaigning in COVID in this cycle?
Yes, I'll add that I have been pleasantly surprised at just how effectively it can be done. I did not originally think that you would be able to have the kind of touch and feel and spirit, but I have been on Zoom calls over the last few months that I felt so good about my ability to interact with the other folks on the Zoom, and the fact that I felt there was a spirit there. So it can be done. It is more difficult. It requires more energy from the individual speaking, but it can be done. And I'm glad that we have been able to call upon this technology at this time in our history, I don't know where we would be or how we would have been able to campaign but for this. And so it's working. It's working amazingly well.
Amazing. Attorney General?
Yeah, just the same. I mean, one benefit for us as candidates is we can be in multiple places in the same evening. I mean, I had 4 different Zooms last night, and some of them were out of state, and that obviously would be impossible. But a benefit for all the participants here today is, I mean, I see people from Asheville, I see people from Chapel Hill, I see people from Raleigh. If we were lucky to get Pete here to do an event, it wouldn't be as easy for us all to convene. And so it lowers the barrier of entry for everyone as well. This is not to say that there are not downsides. It's just, it's the next best thing. And we have to make do. The part that I'm struggling with hardest from a campaign perspective is the tactile knocking on a door. You know, we're just not able to do the traditional GOTV that Democrats love to do. But I've been really energized by all the phone calling that's been going on instead, emailing, texting, social media posting. You know, my wife and my daughter are doing the Democratic Party Get Out the Vote calls. They have one tonight. And it's just a different way of campaigning. And what I like, I mean, what's great is that even with this damn pandemic, it is not depressing people's passion. And in some ways it's amplifying it because they are seeing in real concrete terms what gross incompetence costs this country, cost in terms of human life and economic opportunity. And that just people are even more fired up to bring about a government that we can believe in.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask a question that we've gotten 3 or 4 about. Maren, maybe you can kick us off, but healthcare, I think with the SCOTUS nomination has again regained prominence, but would love to hear from you, Mayor, and the other candidates about kind of healthcare's presence in this race and what that means.
You know, I think about North Carolina a lot when I think about healthcare, because part of what I think has created a new tide of awareness and activism and advocacy are ways that the battle over Medicaid expansion, for example, touched so many lives in North Carolina and motivated, among other things, a lot of voters of faith concerned with how we look after those who are most vulnerable and in need. All of us have a stake in this healthcare fight. I'm thinking about family members of mine who depend on the insurance that they buy through Obamacare in order to be able to have their struggle with cancer treated. And so this is as real as it gets. It's at stake on the court. It's absolutely at stake in the election. Look, they've been determined to reduce the access to healthcare that we got. And we fought so hard to get it a decade ago. And that's why the choice couldn't be clearer. And this is a good example of why we need to be working at every level. We need good leadership in Congress, of course, in the House and in the Senate, in order to make sure that we're getting legislation to support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, hopefully from the White House, in expanding care. But so many of these decisions, like around Medicaid, are made at the state level. And it's so important that we have a governor and lieutenant governor and legislators who get it. And also, we talk a lot about the Republican lawsuit to the whole reason that we're worried about the Supreme Court is that when it comes to the ACA, is a Republican lawsuit. Well, technically speaking, even though it's Trump driven, Trump's not the one in court. It's a bunch of attorneys general. And it's a bunch of Republican attorneys general who are trying to do this. So it's one great example of how a national issue that's also very local, even personal for all of us, is affected by an office like AG. And one of the reasons why I'm glad it's Josh Stein in there in North Carolina, I think it's so important to send him back into office. So at every level of government, healthcare is at stake. And in every American life, it's so important. And we know what's required of us. Now we got to go out there. And by the way, one other thing, politically, this is a winning message for us. Most Americans already agree with us on Medicaid, on the ACA, on pre-existing conditions. Americans are with us right now. One of the reasons that the other side's trying to talk about literally anything else, we're not going to let them. This needs to be front and center.
Thank you, Mayor. Attorney General?
Yeah, I endorse 100% what Pete just said. Look, this lawsuit was brought by 19 Republican attorneys general, and the Trump administration was supposed to defend it. but a number of colleagues and I, we didn't trust that they would do a good job. So we intervened in this lawsuit in Texas. And thank God we did, because soon thereafter, Trump actually went from the defendant's table over to the plaintiff's table to attack federal law, which is contrary to the role of the Department of Justice. So this case is in the United States Supreme Court. I'm there with 19 other attorneys general. Javier Becerra of California is leading our coalition and doing a wonderful job. And the stakes could not be higher. In North Carolina, there are 4 million North Carolinians who have pre-existing conditions. They have protections against being discriminated against by insurance companies because of the ACA. There are 500,000 North Carolinians who get their insurance through the health exchange. That is in jeopardy if we lose this lawsuit. If there are over 1 million seniors whose prescription drugs cost less money because of the ACA, there are 400,000 North Carolinians who can afford health insurance because of the subsidies from the ACA. That is a jeopardy. All of these gains are at risk if we lose. So yes, healthcare is at stake in the US Supreme Court. And frankly, it just underscores the critical nature of electing Pat and electing Cal Cunningham, because let's say we win, which I'm doing everything in my power to win. We still need to get to universal coverage. There's still 1 million North Carolinians today who do not have health insurance. They deserve health insurance. We're the only industrialized nation in the world which does not grant, as a right of citizenship, health coverage. So we need Pat, we need Cal to expand it. And Lord, help us if we lose this case in the Supreme Court. We absolutely need them to rebuild coverage in this country.
Thank you so much, Attorney General. And Judge Timmons-Goodson, I'd be curious to hear what you're hearing on the ground kind of in your district about this issue too.
Yes, what I am hearing is the fact that folks are concerned about their health. There's not one single decision that is made that is not, that folks don't give thought to the virus. That's the most pressing issue on the minds of the citizens in the 8th Congressional District. Even as I said, something as simple as going to the grocery store, you're thinking about, do I have that mask? You're walking in the door and you're making sure that you sanitize your hands in some way. This virus, this health care issue is at the heart of everything that we're doing right now. Many of you may have grown up hearing, as I did, that if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. As a matter of fact, each year, each day, thousands of folks try to make their way to the United States of America. Why? Because of the many freedoms that we offer. The freedom to worship as we please, the freedom to speak, to assemble, all of those freedoms. But you know, they don't mean anything if one does not have one's health. And if nothing else has been shown during this time, we ought to see that it's not just my health, but it's whether my neighbor is healthy, whether my neighbor has health insurance, because of the ability to affect and infect others. And so in the 8th Congressional District, the issue is healthcare, healthcare, and healthcare.
Amazing. And I bet that is breaking through like it did in 2018. It's vital. So we only have a couple minutes left. So I want to give a chance, and maybe we'll stick with you, Judge, to give kind of some parting words and a way for everybody on this call to make sure that they're helping you out across the finish line as we run through the tape.
What I want you to understand is that we're up in the polls and that we can win this seat. I'm going to need every single vote I can get. And then after you vote, go and make sure someone else votes. If you want to learn more about the campaign, if you want to invest more in the campaign, please go to timmonsgoodsonforcongress.com. We need you. We can win this thing. We can win this thing, and we can provide the kind of leadership that will make the changes necessary to help get our country back on the right track.
Thank you so much, Judge. Attorney General?
Yeah, I want to thank all of the people who are on this call. Many of you have been supporting me for a long time, and I could not be more grateful. You all give us the energy we need in order to keep pushing and pushing. So thank everyone. Pete, I want to thank you clearly for helping us with this call, but much more importantly, thank you for your leadership in helping to help the entire party. I mean, I watch your clips and your evisceration of the ridiculous arguments that are made on Fox TV, and it just warms my heart. But, you know, we were the state that voted right after South Carolina, and that was when Biden won. And your immediate and decisive decision to endorse Biden played a critical role in helping our party coalesce. And thank you for that. That required selflessness, and I want to express my appreciation. Everyone on this call, I talked about how much power we have, but it's critical that we exercise that power. We have 19 days, and I've got a high school, I've got 2 boys in college, and when I think about their life's prospects, I don't think there's anything more important. There are no 19 days that are more important than the next 19 days in determining what kind of world they will live in. And so thank you all for being on this call and helping Pat and Yvonne and me. But I ask you to do even more. It's not only writing checks, but just Google NCDP volunteer and do something, get engaged, make phone calls, send emails. We cannot leave this to chance. You have to wake up on November 4th, absolutely exhausted as you've been because of the effort you've expended over these next 19 days, and elated at what we have achieved together. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thanks so much, Attorney General. And I'll turn it over to you, Mayor, to close us out for the event.
Great. Well, thanks so much to Attorney General Stein, to Judge Timmons-Goodson, and to Yvonne Lewis-Holley for stepping up and for the leadership that you're showing. Thanks to everybody on this call. If you're in North Carolina and you're on this call, I want to thank you for, first of all, everything that you've done. I mean, the stand that North Carolina took for equality in the middle of the last decade means a lot to me personally, meant a lot to us here in Indiana, having gone through that fight with Mike Pence, watching the way you turned the tide, the way you elected Roy Cooper, who we're going to reelect this year. You have gotten the attention of the country as part of a turn toward decency and proven that there's no such thing as a permanently red state. So thank you for everything that you're doing, and know that there are a lot of people around the country like me who want to be the wind at your back as you push on this year. Everybody on this call who's not in North Carolina, and I see faces here that I think I've seen in 2 or 3 different virtual U.S. states in the last 24 hours. Thank you for your continued commitment and your generosity and your tireless energy for making sure we get this done. These are the days that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives what we did, and a great use of all of our time, talent, and treasure is supporting great candidates like the one on the line here. So we know what's required of us, and we know what's possible if we get this right. Let's keep pushing, and let's make sure we've got a lot to celebrate in just a few weeks from now. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. If you want to stick around, I think Matt's going to pull up who's Zooming who. But for everyone else, we'll see you later.